Hello, this is the Situation Room on ChannelOne television. It's a show we've been bringing you since last year. In fact, building up to election 2024, which is just a few months away. December 7 is a big day. It's going to be a Saturday. Are you ready to vote? Now, how are you going to vote? But in the lead up to the election, what are Ghanaians saying? All those discussions, and what are the people who are hoping to be voted saying? This is a show that tracks all these things for you and gives you the better perspective. And we also have a very good polling system that we've been sharing with you all this while on what the projections are, what people are saying on the ground in terms of questions that I asked them. We put all of that together as a potpourri of ideas relating to elections that is served you only on the Situation Room. My name is Umar Rusanda Amado, and I'm doing this for this week with Bernard Kokuavle. Bernard, how are you?
It looks like I've come to stay.
Yeah.
This is my second
No.
week.
I'll send you back on loan. Sami has traveled on loan, so when he comes back, then I keep
you are shuffling your team.
I know, but
so if you're a president, you will shuffle.
I mean, you see, President Akufo-Addo believes in the American system. He says that if you haven't done anything, why should I reshuffle? Stay for 4 years, which is what happens in the US. I don't think so.
But you met the Prime Minister this week.
Don't call him Prime Minister. The man said he's not called Prime Minister.
You know, it's been a very interesting week. So I interviewed Manasseh on Akufo-Addo on Monday.
Yeah.
And a sizable chunk of that book, he discusses Gabi because he spoke to Gabi Ochredako. He speaks to Joe Osei-Owusu. He speaks to Muntaka and some people.
Yeah.
Then the day after, so I discussed Gabi a bit with Manasseh.
Yeah.
Then you had Gabi for a whole show.
Yeah.
It was quite interesting.
You know what's interesting? So Manasseh and I were in GNJ together. He was my SRC president. He used to write tales and post them on trees. At the time, GNJ, well, there was no sophistication. We had these big neem trees. So he would write, print, and post it there. You would see a horde of students reading by a tree. That's how Manasseh used to do it. And this was 2008, 9, 10.
Okay.
So he's always been writing. Yeah. And then we had this school magazine. He would be writing for that. He would be writing. You know, GBC had this thing where they would read. It's like a letter of the week that BBC does. GBC had one, so he would do that. So we've always known that Manasseh was going to be our writer. And I think his email was even Achebe something, which is relating to Chino Achebe.
Chino
right?
Achebe.
So I have not read his book yet. I watched your interview.
Yeah.
And what I realized with Manasseh is that, so he's an investigative journalist, but not the type that Anas does. So Anas goes undercover, Manasseh comes frontal. Yes. He decides to question you based on facts and documents that he has. Yes. So I don't know how he got the people to interview them and put them in the book.
You know, you see, being a journalist is a very important thing because people want to talk to you because they know you have the eyes and the ears of the public. So he tells them, at least based on what he says to me, that he tells them what he wants the interview for. Mm-hmm. And people want to be represented well. Yeah. If somebody says he's writing a book about journalism in Ghana between 2010 and 2024 and would like to interview you, it will be difficult for you to say no because you want your views to be put in there. Of course, you don't know the angle he will use. Yeah. So for me, and I also don't see any contradiction between investigative journalism and writing because writing is the basis of communication, literate communication in my view. So for me, I think it's a great book. And the other interesting point is he released the Mahama book in 2016. Yeah. He released Akufo-Addo book in 2024. Yeah. So I think Mahama's book, so it essentially tells you, I think 2020, I'm not sure. It's very close to an election. A lot of people are thinking about the leadership of the president. It offers a lot of reflection. And it's also very opinionated and very well done. So it would be nice to get a book to read.
I see. You know, and the thing is that people may know some of the things, but if it's not documented in a book, you cannot reference it. Yes. Now it becomes a reference document where you can say Azuri 2024 has ABCD for literal work, for academic purposes and all of that. You can quote him. Yeah. Interestingly, though, I did an interview with Gabi before the book came out.
Oh, really?
So I didn't have the benefit of knowing that Gabi was mentioned in the book.
Is it?
So it was a pre-recorded interview.
Oh,
so if it was an interview that happened after the book,
then you would have.
I would have seen the chapter on Gabi and I would have put it to him.
Who are you?
And so you see, but the thing is that these things you may not know how it plays out. So we did the recording. Gabi was not even in town as of the time the book was released.
But it was good to watch your conversation with Gabi as well because he's a person of interest, and I like how you put questions to him on topical issues. And I think Manasseh commends him in a very interesting way that I think because Gabi started out as a journalist, he's quite tolerant of dissenting views. And if you read the book, he, Muntaka, Joe Osei-Owusu, Nana Komia, and a few of them were very generous with information. giving us a well-rounded view and confirming or clarifying things. For me, I think we need people like that around the politics. For example, Muntaka was very worried about the way Parliament is degenerating. And those are very important things we need to document. It's good to know that there are people who think about the country beyond their party winning.
Yeah, but Parliament, the cost of going to Parliament is a national security issue we should look at. How much people spend to go to Parliament? Where do they recoup that money from? If you speak to MPs, I mean, they'll speak to you off record. They'll tell you how much they invest in getting elected for just the primary level before the main election. Where do they get that money back from is an issue that we should really look at. And I think our electoral college system has to be re-looked at.
You know, I did a radio show sometime last year on this topic. And then we had a call from General Mosquito. He wanted to contribute to the discussion. And his point was that they do know, as political party leaders, and I'm not quoting him directly, that there are people who want to whitewash their background by coming into the primaries process. So he did admit that there's a lot they need to do in the primaries, because we're trying to ask whether beyond being 18, being of a sound mind, there could be other qualifications which will not be unconstitutional that the parties will put in place. He did admit that that needs to be done, although you have to have a way of dealing with it. So Sandra, for me, political party governance is important, and having these conversations enriches the playing field. So it's a very interesting time for us, and we look forward to the elections.
And we also have to look at MPs who leave Parliament. What becomes of them? MPs become so broke after leaving Parliament. And you'll be wondering, a lot of the MPs that are out of Parliament, when you speak to them, they'll say it was not worth it going to spend that much money to. And yet you question, why are people going there? It's an issue. We'll look at it. This is the Situation Room on ChannelOne Television, just a preliminary way of having the conversation. Our focus today is not on internal parliamentary primaries and how much they cost. We're going to look at, so you do know that the Ashanti region is the base of the MPP. But there's a region that we do not talk about often, which region could easily pass also as a base of the NPP. It is the Eastern region. The people who watch the numbers would always remind you that in 2008, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo almost became president with just those two regions on his folder. That's the East Ashanti region and the Eastern region. In Ashanti region, there are 4 NDC seats out of the lot. New Dubiase, Sachedumasi, Ejura, and then Aswasi. In Eastern region, the picture is a bit interesting because of the demography, the ethnic makeup of that region. So we'll look at that briefly and then talk about what people in Eastern region swing constituencies think of this coming elections. At the flag bearer level, who would they vote for? And at the parliamentary level, where their interest is going to be. So that's what we're going to do when we come back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the Situation Room on ChannelOne Television. So we gave you a broad perspective of what we are going to look at. We'll be delving into that in a bit. But this week, let's say this week in politics, what are the key takeaways? What are the major issues? Bernard, we've been observing the space. So major issues. NDC has its manifesto launch coming up 2 weeks from now in Cape Coast, I think. But before then, they've done the youth manifesto. I don't know what your perspectives are.
So we have 115 days to the election. Today is the, I think, 15th or 16th of August. 15th of August. So we have 115 days to voting. I think it's very close to the election for the parties to now be launching their manifesto. Generally, manifestos are July, August. But looking at the stakes for this election, you would think they left it late. But of course, listening to some people in MPP say they feel like NDC has stolen some ideas, you can know why they have these things they do around waiting to launch. Second issue is NDC deciding to launch a youth manifesto before their main manifesto. Whether to test the waters, we are not sure. But be that as it may, it came up with a couple of big ticket items. The comment or the promise around free level 100 tuition. I think that was the biggest takeaway from that, in addition to everything else that was said. To be interested to see whether the MPP had a variant of that. Because don't forget, free SHS is an MPP idea, and they implemented it. They introduced it in 2008, but it became big in 2016, and they've implemented it. So whether this is a preemptive move, what form it will take, because don't forget, the NDC has also said there needs to be some tightening of free SHS. to make it better. Civil society has asked for means testing. Now, NDC is saying they are going to do free level 100. Are they going to do a means testing, or are they going to do for all level 100s? These are the questions. But I think that caught our attention. And of course, they chose to do it in the Greater Accra region. Interesting choice of venue for MPP, Western region. Traditionally a swing region, but if you split it from Western North, MPP tends to do better than NDC in that region. Now you're telling us NDC wants to do theirs in the Central region. These parties don't do these things by chance. For example, Napo was outdoored in the Ashanti region, and he set the target for MPP for 85%. Musa showed us last week that that's very ambitious, because the average around MPP is the mid-70s or even lower mid-70s. NDC at least early 20s, mid-20s. So where they choose to launch anything is important. So keep an eye on, I know you will go to the Western region. You will hear a few things around that region. NDC will go to the Central region as well, because they believe they have a fighting chance there. So it's not just, so I feel these manifesto programs, generally covering elections since 2004, I don't think the public is as interested in manifestos per se. And I think the parties realize this, that it's more a question of what momentum can we gain in our campaign with the various things. So we select our flag bearer, we announce him. We select our running mate, we announce him. We launch our campaign, we launch our manifesto. These are junctions in the campaign that they want to use to build momentum. I'm not saying manifestos are not important, but it seems as if this election, based on, again, the work we've done, the work Musa has done, the issues are clear. Economy, jobs, education. So it's not so much the manifesto, it's more the occasion, the key punches that are released, and the signal is sent about how the parties see their chances. Last thing, Alature Martin met media again during the week. So he is still fighting to be relevant in the race, because as people predicted, when the cookie crumbles, the two leading parties will take the lead. He's hanging there. I don't know what the polls are saying about his performance, but he tries to be in the news. You see television stations, his people come on and they wear Alan t-shirts. It remains to be seen how well he will do as we get to the home straight.
So talking about manifestos, in fact, my last interview with Gabi before this one was incidentally in an election year, 2020. I remember I pressed him on what the NPP had in their manifesto of 2016. And he said, listen, manifestos, yeah, they are nice and all of that, you sell it to the people, but he does not think that parties in government should be held strictly by their manifestos, rather hold them by what they have done and what they are promising to do next. A manifesto is a contract, but it's not necessarily a contract in the strict form of the word. So you may offer something in the manifesto, but when you come, you decided that priorities will change. George Bush's priorities or manifesto in 2000 definitely was not what he implemented in his first term. As soon as he came, Iraq happened, Trade Center happened, and so he had to then change his whole plan. So Akufo-Addo would then argue that, listen, I promised to come and do A, B, C, D, but COVID came and then dislodged everything, so I had to reorient my plan. I think manifestos are just supposed to be bedrolls, but as to whether they stick to them, because trust me, if we took the NPP's manifesto of 2016, which was entitled An Agenda for Jobs, you would be asking the question 8 years on, an agenda for jobs, really, where are the jobs now? So what happened? There's a reorientation. There could be a refocusing.
It's a very interesting point. I recall in the early days of the NPP's first term, there were ministers who premised everything they did with the manifesto. I was at an event where Napo, education minister, said, look, I think this was 2018, 2019. This is what we promised in our manifesto. He referenced the page. This is what we are doing. So there's a place for that, because you want people to believe that you are credible. But broadly, I tend to agree with you, because I think that where we are as a development state, all right, 67 years of independence, we need a national vision to rally around as to the what, and the manifesto should be the how. So I think we should de-emphasize manifestos, because a development plan, a national shared vision is what a nation at this nascent stage needs. We all want to get to Kumasi. MPP says we should use, and we are driving from Swedru. MPP says let's use Mankesim and go through to Yamuransa. NDC says, no, let's pass through and meet in Sawam. But we all want to get to Kumasi by close of day. This is what we want to do. So if we can tighten our constitution, directive principles for state policy, if we can make the National Development Planning Commission independent, in a sense of appointing people beyond administrations, make them put the what clearly, then NDC, NPP, CPP, Alan, everybody can say, we all know we want free, compulsory, universal basic education. But the route NPP will use is this. That's how a nation is supposed to go.
So that's what our National Development Planning Commission has been trying to do over the period. Except that our NDPC has become a manifesto, if you like, because depends on which party is in power. NDC left behind a national development plan. NPP did not take part in that plan. NPP is in now. Unfortunately, the DG just passed. When they were couching theirs, NDC did not play a much role in there. Wasn't it the professor who used to run the NDPC and
so NDC? There was Professor Kwesi Botcho was the chair. Nimoy Thompson.
Nimoy Thompson.
CEO. They presented to President Akufo-Addo. He initially seemed to like it. Some people in NPP say, look, the situation is too, things are changing too quickly, so we didn't touch a plan. Anyway, whatever. We know that the manifestos will be launched this week, next week. We'll see how far they go and how different they are. And then whether there will be converging points on what, so that the how is different. We'll see.
This is the Situation Room on ChannelOne Television. We are bringing you prelim discussions. Let's now bring in our guest. Musa Dankwa is Executive Director of the Global Info Analytics. Musa Dankwa, please come and join us. Just come on, feel free. You can jog or you can hop or you can run, whichever one excites you. Musa Dankwa has been doing a lot of polling and we've been working with him on that. You can go to your corner where your polls are.
This is the Musa corner.
Yes, so that's the Musa corner. Bernard, take over Musa for me.
Well, so what I had wanted to try was to put the Eastern region in perspective first.
Come close, come to the
But I don't know if our charts are ready. But
I think it will come up later.
Yeah, so Musa, why you did Ashanti and you did it at a time where Napo had been outdoored, and he had said clearly that he would get MPP 85%. So it was relevant to look at Ashanti. It's the largest region in the country, and it's MPP's stronghold. Why Eastern region now? What informed the choice to go there?
For Eastern region, it was purely on the basis that we need to know what is happening there. And what is happening there, we're focusing on key races that will be interesting. One were the areas that the NDC snatched from the MPP in the 2020 elections, and two, in the area that the MPP won comfortably. To see the dynamics there, to be able to understand broadly what is happening throughout the region.
So you had Esojaman in Sawam Adwejiri, Ayensuanu, Suhum, and Akwetia.
Yes.
I was in Akwetia before the 2020 election. And when I was pushed, I predicted that NDC would win the parliamentary because of the way the MPP changed their candidates. And inevitably we were right. Why did you go back to Akwetia?
Akwetia because, one, it is where we expect another hot battle to happen. Because Amase did not win her primaries against...
So Charles Kumi won again?
Charles Kumi won again. So we expect that issue to linger on.
The after effects of the Amase matter. She's the former MP, by the way.
Yes. And interestingly as well, I come from the Akwetia constituency. My mother comes from Apramai. I normally go there very often.
You know the place very well?
Very, very well. And Apramai is one of the strongholds of MPP in the Akwetia constituency. And if things don't go well there,
it's a wrong
then
signal.
you know there's a problem in the constituency.
What about Ayensuano? Why did you choose Ayensuano?
Ayensuano was one of the seats that the NDC snatched in the last election. Parliamentary-wise, unusually. So we thought, okay, let's go and see whether the person will retain the seat or things are changing. And then Suhum and Ayensuano kind of dovetail each other.
So if you're describing this for those who don't know, if you drive from Nsawam going towards Kumasi on the Suhum Road, after Nsawam, you get to Tichamante,
which is part of Ayensuano.
Which is Ayensuano, one edge of it, before you get to Suhum constituency.
Yes.
So there's also these sort of parallel issues. In Sawam, Adwejiri, Ayensuano, Suhum, sort of same idea, same issues, right?
Absolutely.
So you also compare the three to see if there's some linearity in the thinking.
Absolutely.
I get that. But what about Esojaman?
Asojaman has been a hot place for many election cycles. It's been swinging sometimes MPP and NDC. It's a very swing part of the Eastern region. And it's a constituency that is very interesting because it has a lot of the Gan Adangbes, the Ewes, plus the Guans and the Akans.
So it's a melting pot.
It's a melting pot.
The history of Citiuation is quite interesting because it's one of the places in Citiuation that swung quite regularly. So MPP has been successful there when they have had Kofi Sayameyao. Apart from him, it's been NDC. So it seems as if for the parliamentary, the candidate the MPP chooses is very important for Esojaman.
Absolutely.
Because it appears to me the presidential does go to the NDC, but the parliamentary depends on the personality. I wanted you to flip through and take me to the ethnic makeup of some of the
constituency.
Yes, that's the first thing that caught my attention in this work. So take me to Esojaman, keep going. Sorry, the Eastern region, generally.
Eastern region.
The Eastern region, yes.
Okay.
Now, does this follow a national pattern, or this was your sample?
Now, the areas we went to are mainly Akans, 58%.
Yes.
Generally, Akans are around 45% of the national population.
Yes.
So Akans here are heavily represented. The Guans, normally 6%, which is probably what we've seen it over the years, for the period in many areas. Ghana Dangbe is quite normal in this concern because of the border.
So this is for the 6?
For the 6 areas we went to.
Because I'm guessing that if you did Eastern region ethnicity,
so this will go up very high.
And Gandangbe may be probably a bit higher than...
Slightly higher, yes.
Because we have
of the
Krobo constituencies.
Yes.
But I was still quite interested because you chose 6 or 5 constituencies where Evers are 15%. Now, these constituencies you chose, apart from Esojaman, where you can expect that because of their closeness to the Volta, there'll be Evers. I'm quite surprised that the Ewe population is that high because you have in Sawa Madrejiri, you have Suhum, you have Akwitia, and Ayensian. I didn't know that.
Ewes tend to move a lot.
I mean, that was something that caught my attention there because I was thinking that the Ewe population may not be that high. 15% is pretty high.
It's very high, yes.
For the Eastern region.
Okay. A fact that you should know, the MP from Sawa Madrejiri speaks very good Ewe. Just by the way.
Oh, wow.
That's a majority whip in Parliament.
You know, where you're from is very close to the Eastern region. Is it that because the Eastern region straddles the Volta River or lake, is it that everywhere there's a riverine or lake community, you find Evers there? Is that the issue?
So I think the Evers follow the river. So
the Tong people?
The Tong people. They call them Tong. Those, not the Anglo people, those are the ones that...
So the Anglo, they do sea?
For the Anglos, they do sea, and maybe other businesses. But the Tong people are following the river, wherever the river is. So you can trace them as way to the top to where John Jenapo's constituency is. Almost all settlements along the river banks are Ewe communities. So if you go to the Eastern region, Afram Plains is practically an Ewe community. Even though it's an Akan place, there are more Ewes.
So if you go to Kwewu Afram Plains, you will have people who are ethnic Ewes.
So far as you go along the Volta, and even if you look at the other side, so Germany and all those places, Ewes all over following the river.
And you know, funny thing, Tong means near the water body.
River bank.
The Tong.
River bank.
Maybe one day you should do for us an analysis of constituencies which are just
bordering the lake.
Yes.
And
I think it will be an interesting thing to
look at Esojaman. Who is MPP putting up as their parliamentary candidate?
Pius Enam Hajide, who originally is from Ketu North in terms of his hometown, but grew up in...
So Esojaman is Akwamu land.
Yes.
But there are a lot of Evers and Krobos in there.
Krobos are also there.
Yeah. Eastern region has 3 Krobo constituencies. Upper Manya, Lower Manya, and Yilo Krobo.
Okay.
Those 3 constituencies.
Can you take us back to the constituencies you looked at, just to look at each of them, their demographic briefly? Or this is more...
No, this is for we didn't actually like the demographic per constituency.
Okay. So for the religion, Christianity 89, Islam about 10. What else did you find in the region before we get to the constituencies themselves? Employment?
Employed 51, unemployed 26%.
Pretty high.
Pretty high.
Students 20%. For this 6 or 5?
For the, I think 5.
5. Go back. What else did you find for us? Age groups.
Age groups.
This looks like the national sample.
Yeah.
The 25 to 34 are very critical. because
very, very critical.
if somebody is 25 years old, it means they were born in the year 1999. That means that they probably voted first time in 2020 properly.
Yeah.
So that age group, if somebody is 34, they were born in 1990. So they probably voted the first time in 2016 or thereabouts. So it gives an interesting view.
So more than half of the voters are under the age of 34.
It also means that a lot of them didn't experience Rawlings.
No.
In terms of him being
president.
My finding suggests that the way I feel about Kwame Nkrumah in a champong is that when a president gets into distant memory, you remember more his good than his bad. So typically what tends to happen is that unless the person was very, very bad, when as their memory goes away, you remember only the good. So a lot of people in my generation like Kwame Nkrumah because they didn't live through him. A lot of people think Achampong now is good because they didn't live through him. A lot of the adults will remember and say, no, we're not going to change. So I say this to say that the younger population from whatever ethnic group are up for grabs more than the older. Older tend to stick to what they want to vote for.
So Rawlings left 25 years ago, which means that anyone below that age may not have experienced
No, didn't experience Rawlings at all. So
yeah,
only
may
what
not
their
have
parents
even
will tell them.
experienced before. So
and what's the importance of this one?
This is the first-time voters as a proportion to older voters. About 23% of the people we sampled in the field were first-time voters.
Do you think that number needs to be more?
No.
It's fine, because first time is below.
Nationally, it's about 12%.
So it's fine. So this is good. All right. Let's get into the key constituencies you looked at. Okay, but hold on. But party affiliation. Why do you do this? Why do you ask party affiliation?
It is very important to ask because it puts the whole results into context. So here you can see that MPP is 39% of the sample, NDC 16%, floating voters 18%, and other parties 1%, and 26% did not disclose the party to us, either feeling shy or whatever it is. They keep it private to themselves.
So this is important for the weighting later on? Or to
These results are not weighted, but you could ask yourself, if somebody is 16% party membership, and in the race he gets 31, where does the support come from?
I get your point. So that it helps you understand
the eventual numbers you will see down the line.
Wonderful. So now let's get into the key constituencies you did. So when you did
in the Sojaman constituency, Sojaman, MPP were 21%
of your sample.
NDC 13%, floating voters 15%, not disclosed 51%.
When a lot of people tell you they won't tell you who they'll vote for, what signal does it send to you?
Here it is party affiliation, not voting intention.
But that's still important. So which means that their political history is not tied to one party.
When they say they will not disclose, they know they belong to NDC.
But they won't tell you.
They won't tell you.
Why won't they tell you?
Some, for various reasons, maybe he is in an area that is very strong MPP, and it's in the NDC, and he doesn't want to disclose himself.
My theory is that the constituencies that have clear voting patterns will give you a lower non-disclosed than constituencies that are up in the air. That's the way I see it because, for example, look at Nsawama Madrejiri. Non-disclosed only 5% because they will say we are MPP
people, yes.
So there's no reason not to say you are, but it's Sojaman because it's very fluid.
Very swingy, yes.
People want to keep their cards close to their chest before. I think that's so that non-disclosed gives you a sense of how strongly blue or otherwise
the party is.
That's the sense I get. I don't know what you think about this.
And then if you look at Ayensuano, MPP is 30%, NDC 19%, floating voters 27%. And if you look at Suhum, MPP 42%, NDC 32%, floating very small 2%, not disclosing 23%. And then if you look at Akwetia, MPP 30%, NDC 8%.
The sample of NDC in Akwetia
is very small.
It's surprising because Akwetia has gone to NDC.
Look at the not disclosing.
And they have an NDC MP.
Yeah, so your thinking is that this 28 may most likely be NDC.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So from this, again, I can say the key places, Akwetia, Ayensuano, Sojaman, will be very interesting just by looking at this chart. But I'm sure as we go along, you will see.
We'll see.
Let's go through. So You've done this already.
Here, we were trying to understand how many of the first-time voters are MPPs. Those who say they are first-time voters, 25% of them are MPP, 17% are NDC, 22% are floating voters, and 35% did not disclose their party affiliation. The older voters, we see MPP, 43%.
So you are right. So the people who voted before, the older they are, the clearer they are about how they vote.
Yes.
The younger they are, the more undecided. So it means that a lot of the campaign messages, which probably makes sense why NDC decides to do a youth manifesto. Because if 35 plus 22, that's over 50% are not telling you or are not sure. Why do you want to focus on the 43 plus 16,
Wow.
who already have told themselves what they will do?
Preaching to the choir.
So it means that you will see more funky messaging by the parties because they are targeting the first-time voters because they are up for grabs.
Yeah, they are for grab.
Okay.
Let's go on. So this
Key election issues.
before you open this chart, every time you've done this, I see economy 1, I see jobs 2, and I see education 3, or a combination of the 3.
Yeah. Unlike in the past where corruption was a big issue.
Since it started, it's always been those 3.
Corruption has gone down completely. So economy is critical,
Economy
means that's what decides this election.
Yes,
for us.
yes.
But sometimes the order changes.
Yes.
If, for example, we do this when they're about to reopen, education can be in the top 2.
Absolutely.
Sometimes when you do this in a time where there's high inflation, economy takes precedence.
But
other times jobs takes precedence.
Jobs and economy
always.
Yes.
are the same thing anyway.
So let's take a guess. Which one do you think will be?
I think it's obvious it's economy.
I think it will be jobs.
Okay, let's
Because
see.
my theory is that usually when there's a lot of economic news, economy tops it.
Okay.
When economic news comes down, jobs takes over.
Unless you interpret for the people what the difference between economy and jobs is. Because if you go to a typical area...
Economy means you go to the market, things are hard.
I know.
Jobs means I don't have work to do.
Yes.
I think people marry... Okay, let's see what you have.
It will be jobs.
Oh,
Because when the economy is topical, like for example in the news...
it's neck and neck.
No,
Almost
but
like a neck.
Sander, almost every other survey is done, economy has led because those times, food is expensive, people are thinking about cost of living. Once that reduces briefly, jobs is the residual problem in Ghana. 25% of them are unemployed.
You see, and this explains why NDC is focusing on this job thing.
Yeah, the youth thing. They know. The job thing, and I'll guess another thing. MPP Manifesto on Sunday, they will talk about jobs.
And I was reminding you that 2016, the manifesto was titled An Agenda for Jobs.
Yeah.
So you can't maybe use economy to campaign in the strict sense of the word. Jobs is something everybody can work with. So they would say that we brought NAPCO, we gave 100,000. In fact, remember, even as way back as NDC time, Ablakwa is on record to have said they had, 1 million jobs that they created, something around at the time he was Deputy Information Minister before going to Deputy Education Minister.
For economy. So I think a lot of this messaging is based on an understanding. And for me, it confirms your work for the past 2.5 years because the leading political parties are always talking about jobs, economy, and that type of thing. Of course, MPP cannot use the word economy too much because it's negative for them.
Yeah. NDC's 24-hour economy is actually jobs, if you look at it in a way, because they say that person Kwesi works from 8 to 12, Kojo comes from 12 to 8, and then the cycle continues. So it's also a job thing.
Yeah.
24-hour economy is a job thing. Okay, Musa, let's go.
Governance and standard of living of voters in those constituencies.
Why do you usually ask this question as a prelude?
Look, in the end, voters would vote for a government if they have positive perception about where the country is headed.
Wonderful. So it gives you a clue.
Yes.
It also helps you to sanitize to see if they are lying to you or not.
Absolutely.
All right. So this is Eastern region.
Eastern region.
What are they saying?
58% of Eastern voters, or those we sampled there, said Ghana is headed in the wrong direction.
Which is funny because when you did Ashanti last week, Ashanti, the right direction was more.
About 56%.
Ashanti was stronger for right. So it tells you that Ashanti is deeper blue than
Eastern region.
That's a good one. Let's get to the next one.
Right direction, 29%. No opinion, 13%.
Interesting. So Ashanti was almost 50-something% wrong direction.
Yes.
Right direction.
Right direction.
So the green for Ashanti was bigger.
Was bigger.
Let's go to the next one.
The loyalty.
Yeah.
Do you approve or disapprove the performance of the president?
This is quite funny, you know. So generally, the direction and approval
move hand in hand.
But
Here-
I think I know what's going on here. The man is from the Eastern region.
That's what I was going to say. So the president is from the Eastern region.
Approved 43%. Disapproved 49%. 8% no opinion.
Generally, the figures are closer to... Generally, those two slides are closer, but this is different. Do you understand why?
Yeah. We're not headed in the right place, but we like the guy.
But it's funny because when you go further, you will notice that when you did your comparison of presidents, he still trails Kufuor.
Yeah.
He still trails Kufuor. So the Kufuor question should not be downplayed. because
That question, we would ask it nationally in September.
who's the president that you like?
So Kufuor so the Dankwa Buzia tradition was in the wilderness.
Yes.
Kufuor brought them out of that.
So Kufuor
Yes.
is the man.
So Kufuor has, in fact, he's been the most successful Dankwa Dombo Buzia tradition person until Akufo-Addo won his second term.
Do you think Akufo-Addo is suffering from recency bias? Because Gabi told you in the interview that
Until he goes.
when he leaves, people will see what he did.
It's partly true. When Kufuor was leaving office or even in office, Bernard, what haven't been said about Kufuor?
They say
At the time,
Yeah.
Fifi Kweti was in his prime. General Mosquito, they were doing
Punching
the
him.
onslaught.
Or Rollins was also dealing with
Rollins
him.
was also in the background.
Yeah.
They were using the word thief in local languages in reference to Kufuor. Atai was used to reference Kufuor.
Yeah.
Kufuor was painted so negative that by the time he left office,
Some way.
he was so damaged.
Yeah.
And yet today we
It's
remember
it's
him
recovered nicely.
and call him
I won't say it
statesman.
was that damage. I think NDC did a lot of work on
That's
it.
what I'm saying. So they damaged him politically.
Yeah.
There was all this thing about when he awarded himself.
So maybe what Gabi told you, we'll see. Maybe let's do 2028 and see. Which president do you like most? Maybe Akufo-Addo may rise.
Now, let's look at this by party affiliation.
Yes.
70% of MPP voters approve of the performance of the president.
Okay.
Disapprove 28%. No opinion 2%. NDC 13% approve. 76% disapprove. 11% no opinion. Among floating voters, 28 approve. 59 disapprove. 13% have no opinion. Other parties, 19 approve. 62 disapprove. 19% no opinion. Those who did not disclose, 30% approve, 59 disapprove, 11%.
I think it's clear that
Let's go to the meat. Musa.
apart from the MPP people,
Let's go to the
living
meat.
standards,
Living
let's
standard.
look at that quickly. Worsened 38, improved 27. Not surprising. Let's move on. Optimism standard of living improved. Hold on. Let's see. 50% say yes.
The
31 say
optimistic
no.
things will improve.
Because, by the way, in a year's time, it could mean that there could be a different government.
Yes,
So this number will be different from where the economy is.
absolutely.
Will Napo's nomination influence your voting? 51 says not likely. 32 say likely. This was higher in Ashanti for Napo than Eastern.
Yes. Eastern is reverse.
Yes,
for Ashanti.
in Ashanti it was more.
Yes.
So the Napo is strong in Ashanti
And not anywhere else.
based on what you've studied.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let's go on. Let's move on. I think we should
Okay.
just move on quickly. Okay, sorry. Let's just
This
look at
running mates.
Yeah,
Let's
go back,
to
sorry.
running mates.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
So
Which
the
of the following running mates do you believe will do a better job? 37, Napo. 24, Professor Jane. 20, neither. 17, no opinion. Okay, quite interesting. Best second. Okay, this was the question. Nkrumah is still in the lead.
Yep.
54. Kufuor, 45. Jerry Rawlings. In Ashanti, Rawlings was not third. In Ashanti, Rawlings was not
So
third.
Jerry outperforms
Yes.
Akufo-Addo in his
In
region.
Ashanti, Rawlings was not third.
Rollins was fourth after Akufo-Addo.
Yes, in Ashanti, Akufo-Addo was
Third, I think.
third.
Yes.
Before Mills.
Yes.
So Rawlings has a problem in Ashanti, but he doesn't seem to have a problem in the Eastern
Eastern
region. Mahama has been steady 12 in Ashanti, around 12 in Eastern as well. Akufo-Addo is third in his own region, at least, okay, in 5 constituencies.
Now, in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4th.
Yeah, 4th. That's quite interesting. Well, okay, you did performance of MPs.
MP, I think we should just...
Let's move on.
Parliamentary elections, yes.
What is going on here?
This is a Sojaman constituency. Pius, Enam Hajize, MPP, 53.6%.
Of the voters.
Of the voters.
They prefer him.
They prefer
He's
him.
the opposition, even though he's in government.
Yes.
Because he's the one. The incumbent is Thomas Ampemnyako.
Who was their DCE in the past?
On 21%.
Any surprises there?
Yeah, it's surprising because you see, for a while now, Sojaman has gone green. It means Pius has done a lot of work because he is a new entrant. And for him to have done what he has done, for me, it's impressive and also shocking. Sojaman has been looking NDC for a while now, since Osofo, that was his name, Jerry Osei Akoto, won that constituency from our man who was at the port. Yes.
Sorry.
From Osama, actually.
Yes.
From Joseph Asari Okoto won. And then our man at the port tried.
Lance has always been trying, but he's not been successful.
So since then, and Thomas Ampemnyako, having been the DCE for the area, he already had his footing before becoming an MP. I'm surprised that he dropped
this will make more sense, hold on, if we look at the presidential voting intention.
Okay.
That's what will help us.
We will look at that when we get there.
Yes, because Anodon Pre, he beat his contender for MPP.
Yeah.
And he looks strong. He's the majority chief whip.
Yeah.
And this is not surprising.
Beat him so
What is surprising is that the last margin that he won in the parliamentary was smaller margin. We expect that he would win, but with much larger margin.
So he's consolidated himself.
Yes.
Don't forget, he declared for Bawumia very early. So he's been quite consistent.
And even promoted the idea or mooted the idea of Alan becoming Bawumia's
so
running mate.
Anodon Press seems strong, and even in the MPP, he looks like one of the important leaders going forward.
So, and some of the G will not change.
Yes. This is
Against Swano.
Wow. This is the place NDC snatched from MPP in the parliamentary. And they maintained their candidate.
Yes.
And MPP have changed because they had Samuel Ayepai, and now they have Adjo Asiedu. So it seems like the NDC success there was candidate-based. It was candidate-based. So if you get the
right
candidate that they want, they will probably go back to their...
Ayepai has been in that place for a long time and been very popular.
People get tired. Yeah. People get tired. I think there's the same issue with Trobu, where people got tired of Moses Enim. And when you listen to MPP close, they say, because they've chosen a woman, MPP may snatch back. Not snatch back, they will maintain trouble. If they had maintained Moses Enim, they may have been in trouble. Okay. So sometimes the right
So we expect Ayenswano, from what this poll is telling us, to go back to MPP.
On the parliamentary side.
On the parliamentary side.
And then this is Suhum.
Is interesting.
Why?
There is the incumbent MP is running as independent candidate.
The
incumbent MP.
Has he left MPP? Or he lost the primary?
He lost the primaries.
And he went independent.
And so over the weekend, there's a video that emerged where Minister for Agric, who considers Suhum his home, went there with Dr. Bawumia and was speaking to the people and told them how he tried hard to win that seat but never succeeded.
Because he was then facing...
He was going against the former MP who is now leading the Bawumia campaign, one of the key persons.
Forget his name.
Opariansa. Now he tells us...
they are both pre-seconds, by the way.
Whatever, we don't care about pre-seconds. So he tells us how he went to Abetifi, and from there orchestrates the defeat of Opariansa. And tells us how Opariansa was a very good MP, and that when he went to Parliament, Opariansa trained him. But despite all of that, he still removed him using another person.
Look at this.
And that other person is a guy now who is trying to go independent because he has lost the primaries.
So you mean Brian Champon's long hands are in Suhum politics?
Yes, and he himself said this. So there's a video all over.
So this Obuafu Kwejo Asante is the incumbent?
Yes. And these are his polling numbers.
Good.
We don't know whether it's going to rise up in the poll or stay where it is.
The MPP is very worried in there. So when Dr. Bawumia went and all the people went there, they were talking to him to try and let him step down. In fact, there was even information that he has agreed to caucus with the MP or join the MPP. Then another story emerged that no, he's busy doing his own party's independent.
So he left MPP after losing the primary.
After losing the primary.
And he's still an incumbent MP.
He's an incumbent MP.
Does our law allow that?
Yes. Don't forget that.
I thought if you cross carpet...
He hasn't crossed carpet.
He has just moved to the side of the carpet. He hasn't crossed yet.
Remember the thing that happened with the second deputy speaker?
I get it.
So if the party sacked him. But so the party can sack you, but Parliament cannot sack you.
So he's still an MP?
So he's still an MP. It's just that he's...
So your point is that if this guy continues, it will benefit NDC?
Yes.
Wow.
So Suhum Krabwa
It
quota.
could be a place to watch in the next election, in the
So
parliamentary.
NPP then has to patch up. They have to find a way of
Yes.
And for
Which
me,
is why they went there.
yeah. So Dr. Bamia was there, Brian was there, everybody
Because
was there.
these 12% guys could
Could
really
move
make
to him.
life uncomfortable for this guy if they don't go to him.
But I would not vote people. What is that? 20%.
These are MPP people, MPP voters who are not going to vote.
Oh.
They are not sure, or they're angry.
They are now going on to Abano.
So the point around incumbent party and apathy is a very important point.
Yes.
And they have told you this, that every year, every time there's a change in government, the turnout is lower. And I've proved that on set.
Yeah.
So it tells you that if the incumbent party wants to win, particularly in the regions that they are strong,
They must be high.
they have to deal with the apathy.
Yeah.
So more people should show up and vote for them.
And this is...
Akwetia.
oh my God.
Then
Oh my God.
Then Chembo.
Then Chambo.
So the incumbent is the NDC candidate.
Yes.
Still leading.
Still leading. MPP won 26%. 33% undecided.
Oh my God. This
These
is
guys
interesting.
are mostly in Apramai and Kwame Kuma.
This is the MPP stronghold.
This is MPP stronghold.
So there's still a problem with Yaokumi. And
Amma says people are not voting for NSC.
8 years later, because she was MP from 2016 to 2020.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, she was changed because they claimed that she was a hairdresser.
Yeah.
But she was very popular in the markets.
She was. And she really
see,
affected
The
NS
demography of Akwetia largely suits Amase.
The type of people in the marketplaces,
absolutely.
They like her.
Yes.
The other thing we shouldn't forget about Petiado is that because of the dwindling fortunes of the mines, the temperature of voters, because they used to have a lot of migrant mine workers who typically would vote for NDC. So I think the problem with MPP there is the division.
Yes,
because
division.
the demographic
So
of
they fix
Akwetia generally has become more MPP
It's
than say
MPP.
20 years ago. But Bajama used to do very well there
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there were communities that would vote for NDC because there was a vibrant mining situation,
So you can
which
call
has dwindled.
You can call Akwetia a Zongo constituency.
That's the point.
Yeah,
Because a
Zongo
lot of the guys who come and work there
Yeah.
from outside.
The Zongo's part is in Akwetia and Bodua. Yes.
What I meant about Zongo was they are people who have come
Yes.
temporarily and
Yes.
will be going back.
Yes.
But that population may
It's
not
not
be
spread
increasing.
across the constituency.
Okay.
They are mainly in Akwetia and Bodua.
Okay. I see.
But you agree that the dwindling diamond fortunes affects the
Because
demographic?
the migrants will leave,
Yes. Or some may settle, but no new ones may
will
not
not
come.
come in.
So it's NDC's loss more than MPP's loss.
Yes,
Yes.
generally, which is why the MPP's challenges with their candidates is what causes the NDC to win.
Now, let's look at critically some behavior of the voters quickly. Maybe just so German. Among those who voted for MPP in 2020, 3% are voting for NDC candidate now. But 78% of people who voted for MPP are still voting for Pius. Now, if you look at the NDC, 71% of Ampimdakun people are still voting for him. But 23,
So Pius has eaten
I've
into
switched.
NDC.
23%
Pius has eaten into
eating it.
NDC.
And that's where Ampimdakun's problem
And
is.
don't forget, there's also ethnicity there.
Yes.
So Pius has eaten possibly into
Yes.
the ever vote.
So they are doing skirt and blouse there. And unless they can convince this guy to come back home, he will be a
So
problem.
Pius
So,
is a
so,
problem
so there's
for
a
them.
video again that is being shared of Pius speaking. Don't move away yet.
Okay.
Where Pius is speaking to a community on speaking ever to them, and he says to them, "Listen, this is us. You know, vote for me. Don't worry about the national issue. I mean,
Vote for me.
essentially vote for your brother." I mean, when
That is exactly-
he was almost preaching skirt and blouse, and that video is all over out there on social media.
Wow.
But again, in constituencies like that, these are the languages you have to use. Where you know that, oh, this body, they are the hardcore NDC, tell them, don't worry, vote for your job, Mahama. But when it comes to parliament, vote for me. So I've seen videos of that.
It's called
And it seems...
the Boniface strategy for Medina.
Uh-huh.
Let's go on.
So I think we don't have time. So let's go to the presidential,
Yes.
and then we can see
So the presidential, first one is
in the whole eastern region.
when you put the five together.
Yes, Mahama 31%, Bawumia 54%, Alan 8%, Nana Kwabidakun 6%, others 1%.
Okay. This is the 5 constituencies.
Yes.
Now let's do one by one.
Now, interestingly, when you put together how they voted in 2020, Nayado got 74% from these 5 constituencies.
So Baumia is underperforming Anado.
Yes,
And
by
Bawumia got
14%.
54.
Yes. So
Wow.
Mahama is up from 24 to 31%. and Baumia is down from 74 to 54%.
Wow, that's quite insightful.
So that is a trend that we need to look at.
Interesting. Go on to the next one. Oh, this is where it goes.
Right? Yes.
So their residual preference for is NDC.
It's NDC.
But Pius is leading because he's using other means. Whatever.
So unless Mahama help the candidate, it will be tough for him.
Yes. So DMB's 35 seems fair.
And Alan and Bediakun are doing quite well.
Okay, that's interesting. Because Alan is doing better here than he did in the Ashanti region.
Akwamufi.
No, around the same percentage.
Same percentage.
Yes.
Is this better than his national average or low?
Slightly, national average is low, 7.5.
Okay.
Here, 9.7.
Interesting. In Sawam,
Adwajiri.
how does it compare to 2020?
Let me see. I haven't got that data here.
But okay.
But it's closer, it's wider here than in 2020.
So it means that the MPP is getting stronger in Sawam.
In Sawam, yes.
In Asawam Edreji. And
Yes.
I credit that to my majority chief whip. He seems to be very popular.
Yep.
And sometimes the presidential candidate gets the benefit.
Ayen Swano. Look at Alan and Bediakun.
Which means that residually it's an MPP seat.
Yes.
So that proves that the issue with MPP was the candidate.
He's a candidate.
So once they get a candidate who is liked by the party, they take the seat back.
All
in the
these
parliamentary.
guys voting for Alan are MPP guys in Ayen Swano.
So the presidential Baumia may be affected in the MPP strongholds by the Alan factor. John Mahama's 27 is the same. It's normal for him. So the problem more is with the Alan and the NKB for MPP.
Or MPP, yes.
Ayen Swan. What about Suhum?
This is Suhum.
Wow.
Closer.
So Suhum
What's
is
going on
gradually
here?
becoming. So NDC has never won Suhum before, right?
Yeah.
But the way this is looking, it means Suhum is becoming a cosmopolitan area, is it not?
We know we go there every year.
I went to Suhum since the time Brian and
We've been going to Suhum
Yeah.
every year for Basco, but the only thing I remember is that Julius Debra used to campaign there a lot. But MPP seems to always win it. So 40-47 is rather close.
Very close.
It's rather close. And it's not because of Alan. Alan is just 4. NKB
And
is
no,
just 4.
two of them are making 8% or nearly 9%. 9% plus this is comfortable lead.
Maybe that's why they went. Maybe that's why people went there again.
I think Suhum is becoming a cosmopolitan area, and now a lot of things are changing. That's the sense I'm getting.
The more urbanized they become, then
Yeah.
it becomes problematic for.
Yeah,
No, I think that urban question has to be depend on where.
that's true.
The urbanization affects the politics depending on where the urbanization
Which area
happens.
is happening.
But I think it's an interesting one.
Akwitia.
Wow. So in a steady state, it's an MPP seat.
MPP seat.
But the NDC candidate who is the incumbent is doing better than John Mahama.
Yes.
Which proves the point I was making that Akwitia has changed to favor MPP.
because of
but
the-
MPP's internal problems may push the parliamentary candidate guy, NDC guy to win.
Wow.
Quite interesting.
Okay.
And then you look at, okay, a
So
bit
twen-
of.
So 2020, all constituencies.
So 72% of people who are went for Nanado in 2020 are voting for Baumia, down by 28%. 9% are voting for Mahama, 7% for Alan Martin, 5% for Nakwambe Diakun.
So
3%.
Baumia has work to do in those 5 constituencies.
Yes,
And at the parliamentary level, so Thomas Ampinyakun has a lot to do in the Sojaman.
yes.
The NPP candidate in Suhum, if they do not work on their internal issues, there's going to
also
be
have
trouble
work
for
to
them.
do.
And then majority whip, he is comfortable in Sawam Edwejiri. And then in Ayen Suano, what's the takeaway
So
there?
Ayen Suano,
is going back.
they've mended the parliamentary problem. So they will probably take it back
Take it
and
back.
maintain the presidential.
And the last one is
Sojaman.
Sojaman is the NDC candidate is in
So
trouble.
Pius is going to give the NDC candidate. Sorry. So you can safely say that NDC will win the presidential, but they may do parliamentary for MPP.
Parliamentary, okay,
That's what we've taken from this.
very well.
Here, look at Eastern region. The key points here is that among those who did not vote, almost like the first-time voters and few of the older ones, it's almost neck and neck.
That's 37.
So Baumia generally has a lot of work to do in Eastern region.
Yeah.
That's a big headline from that region.
Wow.
We have to end it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Musa, this is incredible. When is your next one?
We are doing 2 right now in Weja and Ablekuma Central.
You are back in Accra.
Yes.
We'll be happy to see the results.
Weja Ablekuma Central. Weja's parliamentary MP has lost the primaries for Jerry Ahmed Shaib. That's Weja Gbawe. Ablekuma Central, NDC has that seat now, having taken it from the MPP's, what's his name?
Yeah, what do you call him?
So Ablekuma Central has Jefferson Saki.
Jeff Saki, yes.
For F of the MPP.
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to be interesting.
We'll be happy to see what you come up with. Thank you so much, Musa.
my
Of Global
pleasure.
Info Analytics, Bernard Kokwavle, my co-anchor. My name is Umaru Sandamad. We'll be back next week. This is ChannelOne TV.